Hi there. My name is Avon, and in November 2021, on the 21st, I took my first dose of hormones to start my journey on the path of, developing a more feminine physique and to feel more like myself. And this is the 2 year anniversary of that, and it has been a really interesting journey. Depending on how much time I have before I need to go to bed, because I work, like most of us. I'm going to add some clips and some um, examples of some of the photographs that I've taken for my blog that I have been keeping nightly since then. Now, I started the blog specifically because I wanted to keep track of my transition. And I spent my entire life lying about who I was to myself and to others. And I wanted to be held to, some kind of standard when it came to this journey. I didn't want to lie to myself about anything. I wanted to have a record of the thoughts, of the feelings, of the face that I've had since I started, and the face and voice that I have now, which is why I've done a video for the start, the first year, and now the second year. I am thinking I might should do more videos. So let's see. When I first started hormone therapy, I was in a relationship with a guy who, when I first told him that I decided that I was going to start hormones, he looked up at me very concerned and he said, "Well, why didn't you talk to me first?" Yeah. um, March of the following year, we broke up. After I got out of rehab and spent some time with him and his inability to either accept my new path in life or my sobriety, I'm not sure. Maybe it was a mix of the two, but we had to end our relationship. Uh, yeah. Uh, as my first year came on hormones, I met somebody else, a woman, and I'm currently living with her now. And it has been a very interesting journey. We've been together for just over a year now, so she was with me right at my first year mark. And she's experienced a very significant change in myself because, as I just mentioned, I had been in rehab. Now, uh, during the pandemic, we all have our pandemic stories. Um, I was working for a clothing retailer, and during the lockdown, I was going to work packing orders for online, shipment, kind of things. And I dealt with a lot of um, problems. Okay, that's the best way I could describe it. Um, my coworkers didn't take the pandemic very seriously. They didn't take COVID very seriously. They were wearing their masks under their noses. Sometimes they just didn't want to wear their masks. They had the, kind of cop out thing about how it makes them, lose their breath and everything. And, um, I was doing a hardcore low tech kind of hazmat setup where I would have a bandana with three paper towels inside folded over, so the bandana sandwiched it, folded over the nose, got one of those aluminum nose bar things, stuck it to the bandana, pressed it on my nose to create a bit of a seal, tied it on my face. Then I got what are they called? Gaiters? I don't understand that terminology, but it covers your face and all around and then down through your neck. And a lot of people wore those as their protection. And, they're kind of useless for that. But I did it mainly to seal off the area that the bandana had, not because I didn't want to wear like 6, 7 bandanas. Um, and eventually I got a face shield, and I kept hand sanitizer with me at all times, and I wore gloves. And this was before we knew anything about the pandemic. And I dealt with, on a regular basis, people, coworkers, people on the train, police even, like transit authority, some as well, just, telling me that the pandemic wasn't real. And then people going, well, you're young. If you get it, you'll be fine. And it's like, but that's not even the point. To my knowledge, I still haven't contracted it. There is a possibility that I um, contracted it and had an asymptomatic, uh, bout of it. There's just some of the side effects of long COVID that I've been experiencing. But anyways, uh, after the lockdowns lifted, I was still working a lot. I wanted to work through the lockdown. I wanted to work after the lockdown. I was really focused on maybe making it into management and, with luck and some energy, making it into the corporate offices of this company. Well, I was doing an exceptional amount of edibles and drinking an exceptional amount of wine. And my history is with opioids and stimulants, and I had left Florida to get away from a lot of that. Like when I lived in Tampa, I worked at a place where, Xanax flowed freely, Percocet, and all sorts of other fun things were so easy to get. Like, it was ridiculous. So, leaving Florida, coming to Portland, Oregon, I didn't get back into the stimulant and the painkiller arena, even though there were a number of times where that was offered to me. I was at least strong enough to not dive back into that, which is a good thing because the fentanyl thing, right? So I hit a wall. And when I hit that wall, I started drinking more. I started consuming more pot and edibles. I think I mentioned that it was like an ounce a week, but like I started taking stock and trying to remember, uh, how much I was actually taking. And it really sums up to more or less about 2 ounces a week of pot and 3 boxes of wine, which is like 9 bottles of wine a week. And when I had to quit work, I immediately got help um, through my insurance, which I was fortunate enough to have because I was working at the time. And a lot of people didn't have that. And they asked me to quit drinking, so I was able to do that, but I was still smoking. And I almost ended it. And it was not something that I thought I would ever approach in my life. That thought. But when it started really coming over me really heavy, I didn't want to admit it to my care team because that makes things complicated. That makes things difficult. Makes certain paths of care much more difficult to maintain. They might ask me to like do something that I wasn't ready or willing to do. I was terrified of going outside. I was terrified of being around people. I just didn't want to do any of that. So they asked me to quit drinking alcohol, and I managed that. And for a while, I was maintaining. But when it got to the point where I realized that I wasn't able to maintain anymore, I started playing with the idea that maybe my gender expression as non-binary um, was me soft, like kind of softly tapping the egg, trying to softly crack it, so to speak. And I came to this truth, this realization that even though I'm still non binary, the hormone and genital configuration that I was born with wasn't 100% where I was comfortable in my life. So I said, I want to start hormones. And it took for there's still a lot of, as liberal as Oregon is and as easy as they make hormone replacement therapy here, there's still a lot of hoops you need to jump through. You still need to go through a lot of mental health checks. There still needs to be like approvals. You know, apparently you can't just say I'm trans and I want the hormones, which, you know, guys who say I'm not getting an erection anymore, I need pills, they don't really ask questions. They just go, here you are. Oh, by the way, don't take these other pills, otherwise you'll die. Like that's really it. Like, just, anyways. I don't know if that's related, but I didn't write anything for this. I wanted to talk. Um, so I started on estradiol, and they gave me spirulactone, which some of you would say I should not have taken or I didn't need to take. But the combination of those, I will say, lowering the testosterone in my system, introducing that level of estradiol into my system, very soon I didn't feel insane anymore. Now, the other part of this is I promised myself when I got the uh, thumbs up and the date that I would be able to start hormone therapy. I promised myself that not only would I keep a nightly blog, take a selfie so I could keep track of the changes, be them both stylistic and physical, like I don't have an Adam's apple anymore. You know, I love that. Like, there's a little lump there, but I had one of those really manly ones, and it's not there anymore, and I was so happy. But I wanted to be sober as well, and I wasn't able to meet that goal. So when I went into rehab and I came out, I was doubly focused for sobriety. And since getting out of rehab, I have not relapsed. Um, smoking pot, drinking alcohol. I really haven't been social enough for people to offer me other drugs, but I'm pretty confident that I wouldn't accept them. I feel pretty secure in my sobriety, which surprises me because up until the point I went into rehab, I didn't think it was possible for me to find any way to live without drugs. And wouldn't you know it, being on hormones made that possible for me. Accepting who I was made that possible for me. Being who I am, being honest with myself about who I am, made that possible for me. Now, in my blog, I've written about lots of things. Sometimes I write about nonsense. Other times I write about some dark things. And sometimes I write about things that make me look like an asshole. Even if at the time, I don't think I look like an asshole. I might complain about certain things. I might mention certain things. But that's all part of it. I experienced a significant amount of trauma in my youth. Some of it from caretakers. My stepdad will continually tell you that he didn't, he only did his best. But the fact that he told me to not be anything but a boy, be a man, That did a lot of harm. His physical retribution, as I'm going to call it, wasn't great. The fact that he gave his girlfriend license to punish me by putting ivory soap in my mouth, that wasn't great. The fact that he allowed his grandmother the ability to punish me by throwing away my Batman toy collection, that wasn't great. She also was very abusive, verbally, mentally. I broke glass in my hand, and she made fun of me for wanting to get it taken care of. I still have a scar on my hand because she wouldn't let me seek more help than just rinsing it off with hydrogen peroxide and putting a band-aid on. You know, I still have things against glass because of that. Also, when I was younger, an older woman took advantage of me. A few years after that, another much older woman took advantage of me. And since then, there's a number of times where I don't know how a situation or a month even ended. I was living in a house in Michigan for a while. I don't know why I stopped living in that house. I ended up on the street somehow. There was an older guy that I had met at a diner in Royal Oak, Michigan. He invited me over to his house, and I can't remember if I went to his house or not. All I know is I never saw him again, and for some reason I avoided that diner. I mean, I call it a diner. It was a hoity-toity, up its own ass place. There are a number of points in my life where I know something happened. I just don't know what it was. And I know that the intentional overdosing on Robitussin that my stepdad had done to me a number of times kind of helped me feel more comfortable doing drugs as I grew up. And I started understanding that the amount of drugs that I got into was because I didn't want to be sad. I wanted to ignore that sadness. And there have been a number of times in my life where people have taken advantage of my desperation to be loved, to be liked, to be accepted. People used me, abused me. I was in so many abusive relationships with women who were in denial themselves about being lesbians, and they dated me because they saw something feminine in me, and they would cheat on me with other people, sometimes women, sometimes men. And there was even an ex-girlfriend who told people I did something terrible to her because she didn't like that I told people about how she treated me in our relationship. All of that stuff, it was just easier to do drugs. It was just easier to be in denial. It was easier to pretend I was a strong, macho guy and nothing was going to hurt me. But had I not come to the point where I'm at now, I wouldn't be here. And I am extraordinarily lucky that all of my encounters and all of the stupidity I've done did not end in a long-term STI or death. I am lucky in that respect. There are a lot of us out there, a lot of trans people out there, trans feminine, trans masculine, and everything in between, who have not been so lucky. I consider myself very fortunate that I had he like, even the loosest of help when I had to quit work. My mother and I haven't had the best relationship in through the years, but she stepped up. She saw her child go into a painful spiral, and she didn't want me to go anywhere, so she helped. She's also been extraordinarily supportive of my transition. I do love her, and I do thank her for that. If it wasn't for her help, I don't know where I'd be today. 2 years into hormone replacement therapy, I'm sober. I'm working as a peer support specialist in a mental health facility. I'm living with somebody who cares for me, who loves me, who is adorable and sweet and just amazing. There are 2 cats I live with. One of them is my absolute best of buds, and the other one, he likes me. I think he loves me, but he doesn't love me as much as the other one. I've been fortunate enough to be fed, to have insurance, to have my hormones, to be able to collect, stupid shit like these Funkos. But I mean, that's Black Canary as a Green Lantern. Who doesn't want that? Oh, and that She-Hulk, she glows in the dark. But oh, and there's BMO dressed as like Robin Hood or something. I'm just okay. Um, I am lucky. And since Trans Day of Remembrance was recently, I want, like, if you're watching this, I want you to know that just because I have been fortunate and privileged enough to get to this point, that doesn't mean that this journey's been easy. I've second guessed myself. There's been imposter syndrome. My past traumas I'm still dealing with those. I am emotionally immature still because of trauma, because of drug use. So there are things as an adult, as a middle aged adult, that I don't understand. I coasted through life. I wasn't a real person. I was performing, and I don't know how I made it through. Now, people also make the mistake of not understanding that I'm also Latina or Latinx or Latina. Like non binary, they all kind of work, right? My birth father was from South America. I don't like mentioning the country he was from because there's a whole thing, a whole baggage thing that comes with that. And the family I was raised by, not really accepting of other cultures. So I wasn't raised with any kind of, understanding of South American culture. No Mesoamerican influences, no, Latino pride, like I didn't celebrate Day of the Dead. I was able to celebrate Halloween, but not Day of the Dead. I didn't understand my heritage until much later in life. And then people made fun of me because even though my hair is purple, like it's not just the light, my hair is purple right now. I grew up with a ash blonde, dark, like really light brown hair. I mean, it started out as kind of platinum blonde when I was a kid, and then it just gradually got a bit darker until it leveled off at like kind of, that really dark blonde or light brown, whatever you want to call it. Um, even my body hair is like translucent and transparent. So when people look at me and they look at my eyes, they don't see the stereotypical Latinx person. So I've never had to experience the same kinds of issues that darker skinned people have experienced. But my heart is with you. I get it. I really do. My privilege has allowed me to get to this point. And everything that I do right now, every day that I live, I am thankful. I don't think I'm better than anybody else, and I'm not going to tell you it's easy. Getting sober wasn't easy. Accepting who I wasn't easy. And dealing with the people who don't like me, that's not easy. But I'm not going to be anybody else. And I'm going to continue to change, and I'm going to continue to grow. And next year, when I make my 3-year anniversary video, I'll probably have a completely different vibe. Who knows? My voice might even be much higher. I've been working on that, but I haven't been able to really focus on it because I'm just dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. But I feel my voice is a lot higher than it used to be. You know, it wasn't until I got sober that I was able to start my writing project that I had thought of when the pandemic first hit. It wasn't until I got sober and started hormones that was actually a thing that I could do. What does that say? I found my confidence. I found my power. I found who I was. Within the acceptance of myself, I found strength. And that wasn't easy. That took me decades. I was almost there when I was in my early 20s. But I was forced back into the egg and plastered the cracks up because the people around me made me feel ashamed. And I know that happens to a lot of you too. It happens to a lot of people. I want us all to remember that there are so many lovely, beautiful, just amazing trans people out there. And for every trans person out there, there's a story that we all know about a trans person who is not here anymore. Be it through something they did to themselves or something somebody else did to them. I'm fortunate. I don't feel like I'm in danger. I don't feel like I'm going to hurt myself. But that's not everybody's story. Here on my blog, I want you to know that I am always trying to be as honest as possible. I have bad days. Sometimes I might say things that I don't honestly believe because I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm sad. I'm lashing out. I don't lash out nearly as much as I used to. Figured that. Not being high, not being drunk, not being blitzed out on blow. Like, I don't get really angry anymore. I get hurt. I get sad. I want justice. This is all over the place. I didn't want to write anything because I wanted to be as genuine as possible. I wanted this to be very much like my blog entries. Because each of those that I write, I just start writing. I just have an idea. And sometimes it starts out with something, and then it ends up somewhere else completely. Just like this video. This video is a very good example of how I write. I just kind of go for it. And whatever comes out of it, that's what comes out of it. There are not going to be any jump cuts. There aren't going to be any edits where I cut stuff out. I'm just leaving this whole thing in. Because I want you to see me. I want you to see me for who I am. for who I will be, for who I was. Because all of those versions of me are me. Yeah. Kind of feel like crying now. I got all pretty. I put on a little bit of makeup, for the camera. You know, put on some vampire white, you know, like you do. I'm still not really good at eyeliner and stuff, so it's just eyeshadow and a little bit of blush, some black lip stuff. I didn't even put in a bat earring here, but I have little hoops with bats on them. And I don't know if you've noticed, but hold on, look. I got my septum pierced yesterday. I've always wanted one. And for some reason, I didn't feel like I could get one. Yesterday, I was like, you know what? That's just happening. So it happened. My partner said that she is very happy that all of these things that I've wanted for so long, I'm just going for. I'm just taking for myself. I'm happy too. And next year, with, as long as everything, keeps on the path that it's going, I'm going to have a procedure that will make it so I don't need to take a T suppressant anymore. Some of you know what that is. And I might have some minor facial surgery. Nothing really drastic. I'm not trying to look like a cis woman. I just want to soften some things. Maybe change my jawline a little bit, even though it is kind of a sexy jawline. But, we'll see. We'll see. There might be more. Who knows? Right now, I don't think I want a boob job, but I might change my mind. And you know what? That's okay. Gender expression is a personal thing. Who we are and who we choose to be is a personal thing. Nobody has any right to tell us who we are. I feel all emotional and I don't know what else to say really. I just want to thank everybody who has been keeping up with my blog, regardless of how long it's been. All the new readers, the people who are just finding it now, the people who find it in like a year or two, when it's not 2023. I just want you to know, thank you, that I thank you for even being here, for even being curious, for listening to me about my story, about my life, about my experiences. Just thank you. Because I'm sharing this for myself. I want this for myself. But I also know that there are other people out there who may have questions, who may feel alone. And I just want you to know you're not alone. I love you. I'm pretty sure somebody else loves you. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who love you. But I really do love you. You're not alone. I love you. And I will talk to you soon. I might record something next week. So, yeah. I want you to have a beautiful day, a beautiful week. And remember, I really do love you.